Hi, everyone. It's been a little while since I posted, so I thought this was a good time to give an update, show a little bit of a history, as well as where I'm going in the future. So right here, you're seeing a time lapse from October 2018 when I built the initial layout. The benchwork is based off of 4 by 4 foot modular sections that bolt together in two places on each side. By doing it this way, I had a concept where I could bring the pieces into the basement on my own, didn't need help constructing it, but I also had the ability to take it down, make it smaller, rearrange, make it larger, whatever the need may be at the time. The general shape was more or less a dog bone. At its widest, it was roughly 18 or 20 feet wide. The far right was about 12 feet deep, and the far left was about 8 feet deep, with a little 7 foot section in the middle. I wanted to have access to all sides of the layout, which means I had about 18 inches on the back wall, 25 on that back right corner, and another 18 or 20 on that far right corner. And there's not much space more than a walkway in front on the front and left. Um, what I didn't like about this idea was that by doing it this way, the room had one purpose and one use, and you couldn't really do anything else. There wasn't really room for chairs or anything. So it was a train room and that's it. This is one of the initial track plans I created in SCARM, SCARM. It's a nice piece of software for getting a general idea of what you're going to do. But as time evolved and once track actually gets laid down, the initial plan was pretty much gone, but in concept. The outer main line was close to original, but a lot changed since then. Um, I added a bunch of sidings, especially right here. You could see the yard area I created for the second main line, which has a pass-through loop as well as three smaller sidings. Once I had this little yard and this pass-through siding, a lot of times what I would do is I'd put the commuters on the inner siding and the longer train on the main line, and I would block off one section and I could run two trains separately, individually, but it was nice to not have to really get up and do anything. You could just flip a few switches and you were good to go. So, really like this yard idea. This definitely changed over time. I think in the next video, you're going to see a more final product of how that ended up. Now we're looking at the right side of the layout, one of the more newer acquired engines. And if you look, the yard now has yet another siding on the left side, much more buildings. Usually the town area was larger and more spread out, but I had consolidated it to do some construction where I needed access to the back of the platform. And I was making plans to build an elevated loop. I had a really nice design I got off of one of the good Facebook groups. And basement got flooded in August 2020 when the hurricane came through. The sump couldn't keep up. The carpet got saturated and we had 2 inches of water in the whole basement. The drywall had to be cut out at the bottom. Obviously, the layout had to come down, and thankfully, it was a modular design. But packing all that up was pretty much heartbreaking. But um, it took until about now that I'm starting to come up with the new plan for the future layout. Part of the remodel was converting the floor to tile so that if we did get flooded again, I wouldn't have to replace the floor and wouldn't have to uproot the entire layout. As I said earlier, one of the flaws in the other design meant that the entire room was taken up by the layout and it was essentially just a train room. For the redesign, the layout is more or less a 12 by 12 area, and the back of it does go up against the wall, leaves a small path in the front and a small path to get to the sump pump room. I already know I'm going to miss those nice long straightaways. There's something about straightaways that I really like. But using SCARM, I was able to come up with this design, at least as a preliminary. I get to have my yard concept in that section to the far right. This is more or less a draft. I know once I start putting track down, I'll probably change things quite a bit. I still plan on building an elevated loop. Um, there's also going to be a section at the very bottom left of this that's going to go along the front wall. That's going to be about 1.5, 2 feet deep. And I'm going to have some bookcases under it. But I figured I could use that wall section and maybe have a long siding for the main line and maybe a row of trains for like an accessory type where I have all my accessories laid out because I don't really have a great area for accessories in the main section. I kind of really just want trains running in the main section. So this is the plan for now. We'll see where it ends up, and I'll try to put up a video more about the construction of this layout. But here we are. You never expect a flood, but it happens, and thankfully I built the layout in a way that it could be taken apart and put back together. So let me know what you think.